Number 31. Define the term half-life and illustrate it with an example. Okay, so half-life, let's write it down. Now, what is a half-life? Now, generally speaking, if we do talk about half-life, you'll see it in terms of, when we do the math, it's a lowercase t, and there's a half here. So this lowercase t kind of gives you the unit as to what we're talking about. A half-life is a certain amount of time. Lowercase t is generally a time value. So a half-life is the time it takes, and it really depends on, what compound or material you're talking about. That you can be talking about minutes, seconds even, if something is really, has a really, really short half-life. It could take hours, it can take years, it could take days. But in general, a half-life is the time it takes for half of the atoms in your sample, or we'll say in a sample, to decay or to break down. So it's the amount of time that it takes for half of the sample to simply just turn into something else. It breaks down, it decays, but that's basically what a half-life is. So, essentially, let's now give an example. Now, there's two basically different types of, in chemistry specifically, there's two different types of half-life problems. One is when you use half-lives in your kinetic chapter, when they talk about, maybe you have, maybe some type of pharmaceutical drug and it's, decaying in the body, right? Then you have your radioactive decay half-lives, where you're talking about stuff that are radioactively decaying down. But either way, a half-life is still a half-life. So let's talk about, we have to give an example. So we'll do carbon-14. Now, carbon-14 is a radioactive material. It is not a stable material. It is not the most stable form of carbon. It has a 14 as its mass number. Generally, carbon-12 is the non-radioactive, the stable form of carbon. But carbon-14 is radioactive. But there are naturally occurring carbon-14 that's in the atmosphere. And, it's just a process of, what the Earth does. But as far as the percentage-wise goes, carbon-14 is very, 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 very small percentage as opposed to carbon-12. But still, it's in the atmosphere. And carbon-14 is found in all living environments because the basis of anything that's the basis of anything that's living is part of organic chemistry, which is the study of carbon. So if you're living, plants, animals, I don't care, right? If it's a living thing, it's got carbon. And if it's living, you got a little bit of carbon-14 in you. And you have the same amount that the atmosphere has. But now, let's just say that, maybe a tree, right? A tree is living, and trees can live thousands of years. But let's just say that the tree, accidentally, died for some reason. We don't know how, but it's, unfortunately it didn't make it. Once something, unfortunately dies, right? No more carbon-14 can be produced because you don't have any biological processes to, put that out, especially for plants and trees, anything that undergoes photosynthesis. So what's going to happen is the small amount of carbon-14 that is in the tree is now going to start decaying. Now, the half-life specifically for carbon-14 is roughly about 5,730 years. So let's just say, now we're just going to, overshoot this, but just to say, that we have a value, right? Let's just say that we have 1 gram of carbon-14. Now, in that case, how long is it going to take to get down to half the amount? Yeah, it's going to take 5,730 years for that 1 gram sample to decay into 0.5 grams of C14. So the time it took was one half-life, because you're dropping it down to 50%. So 5,730 years had to pass. But now here's where the misconception usually comes. It's what happens now moving forward. Now, a lot of students might say that now, I'm going to 0 grams, because they still think about it in terms of 1 gram, right? You got 0.5 and 0.5, so the next one should be 0. But that's not the case. Now you're starting fresh, because now you only have 0.5 grams. So, what's the half of this number? Yeah, if I take 0.5 and I divide it by 2, I get 0.25 grams of the C14. And it kind of builds on itself. And you'll see that it's not going to take, 5,730 years times 2 for this gram sample to be completely wiped out. It's going to take a long time, because now you have to take this and divide by 2, and take that number and divide by 2. And stuff usually doesn't really go away that quickly. So another half-life has to come along. 5,730 years to go from the 0.5 grams to 0.25, because that's a half of what you had. So now, if you do it again, you'll see that it's 0.125 grams from 0.25 grams. And now you're 15 plus years deep, and you still have carbon 14 for a tree, at least, right? So to get down to 0.125 grams from a 1 gram sample add these years up, so 5,730 years times 3. So this is basically one type of example, but there are so many different radioactive materials that have different half-lives. Some of them are slow in years, some of them are very quick, like minutes. So it all depends, and usually radioactive materials is used for dating. So for our usages as humans, we do use radioactive dyes to track different types of medical disorders, such as cancers and testing your thyroid with iodine. So a lot of different applications, but this is basically what it comes down to. A half-life is just talking about the total amount of years to get that sample down to 50% of that original part. And it is cumulative, so you just keep adding up those years, and that's it. What'd you think? I hope this helped. Thank you so much for viewing the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Tell your friends, tell your classmates about this cool channel. Thank you so much. We opened up memberships for the new school year. If you guys want to become a member, you can. Not obligated though, obviously, but thank you for considering. And I look forward to helping you in more questions. Have a great, great day, and happy studying. Bye-bye.